Welcome to the program, Vanessa. And well, let's talk about if governments aren't providing the weapons, is there any other source?
Yeah, well, it's interesting segue from what Patrick just mentioned. And in fact, the article that I'm citing from here is from the Washington Post. So clearly, here they are inserting the replacement for direct funding from US and EU and UK governments. So this is a video that's been put out by an agency or a company called signmyrocket.com. I think it's fairly self-explanatory when you read what's on the rocket. So basically, this is an organization that is encouraging people to donate to the Ukrainian forces, and the more they pay, the larger the missile that their message will be written on, I presume in indelible ink, and that will be then fired at the Russian forces. Now, on their front page, you'll notice if you come down the familiar language, you have a chance to kill all. So that tells us immediately what kind of tone is being set by all of these kind of organizations that have been established as part of this crowdfunding industry, which is, according to George Eliasson, who's an independent journalist who's been in the Donbass since before 2014. This has actually been going on since 2014, but of course it's gathered momentum in the last few months since February. So if we go on to the next slide, this is taken from the Washington Post article. So the most prominent crowdfunding group, although I would slightly disagree, but obviously it's the Washington Post, so we can't expect them to be accurate. Sign My Rocket started by selling messages on Soviet-made 82mm caliber mortar rounds for $30 each. But eventually, co-founder Anton Sokolenko realized that if it sold messages on more powerful weapons, benefactors from the United States, Britain, Germany, Canada, Switzerland, and elsewhere would pay even more. We got bigger and bigger shells, Sokolenko said in an interview from his home in Cherkasy, a city in central Ukraine. 95% of the orders are in English, and most are from the United States. I would say that in most of the websites, the UK is a close second. So how it works, here you have instructions exactly what to do, but if you look on the right-hand side, signmyrocket.com, the total price for putting your message on the side of a T-72 tank turret, for example, $3,000. Now, what I do have to say, and this was made clear in the Washington Post article, this is going under the legal radar. The military top brass are not sanctioning or endorsing this. They're turning a blind eye. So effectively, this is not legal tender, if you like. This is the crowdfunding industry. We saw it before in Syria with the white helmets, for example, raising millions in public funds with no transparency and no accountability. And this is exactly what is happening through these organizations.
Vanessa, can I ask you, do you think it's possible that eventually none of these shells will actually make it to the front line, that this could be just a giant money-making scam?
That's also what I was going to add, Patrick. Exactly. This is very possibly a sort of a massive money laundering operation. And as I said, there is no transparency. There's no accountability. Most of these organizations are taking public money and dispensing it without any accountability at all. And also something that we thought about also, effectively what's happening here, the government is passing liability, just as they did in Syria through the white helmets, they're passing liability onto the public for effectively sponsoring war crimes and crimes against humanity. So not only the donors and the sponsors, but also the organizations, the middlemen that are effectively gathering public money to send into Ukraine. And as you said, we don't know, there is absolutely no proof that it's going and to what it's claiming to do. So here you have an idea of different prices, depending on the size of the missile. Sorry, having a coughing fit. And in the next slide, you'll see one of the actual rockets with one of the, let's say, less controversial messages.
Yeah, it's still pretty unpleasant. Putin, say hello to my little friend.
And I have to say that this is, as I said, this is relatively mild. Many of the photos that they're publishing online are far more incendiary, to use the pun, than this. So again, this is from the Sign My Rocket Twitter account. Again, we have the language "kill orcs" with a personal text. I mean, this is the fact that this is being allowed on Twitter is extraordinary, but of course, it's not extraordinary.
Yeah, explain to people what "kill orcs" means. I mean, it's obviously a reference to Lord of the Rings trilogy. So who are the orcs?
Well, I mean, the orcs are the monsters from Mordor. You know, the inhuman beasts that were unleashed on humanity. So it's very clear what they are saying, and this dehumanization of Russian forces and Russian people has been ongoing since 2014. So here it says quite clearly, again from the Washington Post article, Sokolenko's organization has moved beyond mortar shells and is selling inscriptions on anti-tank mines, bomb-laden drones, VOG-17 hand grenades, etc., etc. He claims that the company has raised more than 150,000 for the Ukrainian military. Again, I do have to point out that the Ukrainian military is not actually officially endorsing these operations. Now, the next website that I want to look at, and this one is really particularly unpleasant, again taken from this article, the website Revenge 4, launched 3 weeks ago by a Kiev native and IT worker, Nazar Gulik. So basically, what their tagline is, Revenge 4, Russia is a country that deserves the revenge of the whole world. What's your reason for wishing to take revenge? Ruined human lives and crushed dreams, decades of occupation and gunned down revolutions, man-made famine and global artificial disasters. Help Ukrainian soldiers, punish Russia for everything. I mean, this is just extraordinary hate-filled messaging. And guys, let's turn that back on the US empire, the UK empire, and the EU empires that have been doing that for centuries. So according to the same website, Russia is fueling conflicts worldwide. I would disagree. I would say the United States and its allies is doing so, destabilizing the situation in various regions. This affects overall stability, disrupts supply chains, leading to economic crises, famine, and ruined lives of ordinary people. Incredible projection here. Ukraine believes in diplomacy as the only way to resolve conflict. That's why they never followed through on the Minsk agreements. However, Russia thinks differently and understands only the position of power. We are ready to defend ourselves in any way possible. Then they basically mention the money that is raised, 52,000. But then we come on to yet another one of these organizations, Drones for Ukraine Fund. Now, this is one, Patrick, which I think definitely feeds into what you were talking about, because what they are claiming is that they claim on their website they've raised $1 million, and they've done this through creating key fobs out of the skin of Russian warplanes or helicopters, attack helicopters that have allegedly been brought down. So again, I would raise the question, where is the proof that these key fobs are being made from these materials? Move on, Mike, you'll get a picture of it.
Yep. So there you go.
Okay, so yeah, so effectively, I mean, this is absolute prime scam territory here. They go on then to the next slide. They claim, as they said, that they've raised 1 million. And let's have a look at things that they've actually supplied. So order tells you how many donated, and then more than 200,000 raised for charges. But where are these drones going? Well, if you go to the website, which is seemingly connected to Drones for Ukraine, you'll find that in amongst the groups that it's going to is, guess what, the Nazi Azov special forces, and most of these legions or battalions or brigades or divisions are either legion or related to various Nazi linked brigades. So here you have the Azov battalion thanking the public for sending them the drone. Short video.
Thanks everyone who donated to Drones for Ukraine Foundation from Special Operation Forces Azov Kyiv. Дякуємо усім, хто донатив на Drones for Ukraine від ССО Азов Київ.
Here's another one also sending drones in. But, this is called the project, but I come back to the fact this brigade. So those donors, those sponsors, and the organizations that are allegedly facilitating the supply of drones to Nazi, war crime committing, crimes against humanity committing groups are liable for prosecution, right? And here you have Mikhail Fedorov, Vice PM and Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, talking about, if you go to the next slide, the crypto fund. Now, who else raised money through Bitcoin, through cryptocurrency? Of course, ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria. So we're seeing a very interesting pattern come through here. The crypto fund of Ukraine raised 50 million. Okay, moving on. He already then talks about the fact that they've purchased through donations from U.S. public, is handed to armed forces of Ukraine to buy their first. I can't read that, Mike. Can you read it for me? Sorry.
Yeah, so it says the first helicopter purchased by donations is handed to armed forces of Ukraine. The Mi-2 AM-1 is modernized with advanced medical equipment to save lives of both injured military and civilians. Thanks to people from 110 countries for joining the fundraising.
Right. So again, I come back to the fact that these donors, these sponsors, and these organizations are liable if it is found that the Ukrainian forces and the Azov battalions are found guilty of war crimes. This is an article from Time in February or March 2022. Ukraine has already spent $1 million of the donations it cryptocurrencies on military supplies, including bullets that were delivered Friday. The Ukrainian government anticipates doubling the 50 million of crypto donated so far in the next 2 or 3 days. Most of the donations have been in Bitcoin and Ether. The 250-person ministry has managed to find suppliers in Europe and the US for everything from the vest to food packages, bandages, and night vision devices for the army, and about 10% of the suppliers take crypto. So, as I said, where did we see the use of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin previously? In Syria for the terrorist groups enabled by the United States, the UK, and the EU. So, we're seeing, I think, exactly what Patrick said. We're seeing now the withdrawal of the direct support from NATO member states and the replacement with these third-party agencies, outreach agencies that give the governments plausible deniability. I'd like to know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely another way to kind of privatize or launder support, ongoing support. But, this is just all a drop in the bucket. The U.S. just dumped $4 or $5 billion into their coffers this month. And there's more and more resistance to this. So I think this is more about generating that ongoing public political kind of support.
Well, not only that, it's also directly involving the public in the conflict.
Yeah.
Much more because much more than just having taxpayer money spent on it. This is actually people giving their own money, so they've taken an active role in the thing themselves. They're invested in it.
They're invested in it. And so my question is, if you're writing messages on these shells or these drones, I mean, the Polish guys did a crowdfund for a Bakhtarit Turkish drone is 3.4 million euros, and it got shot down like the first week they put it up. So what happens? Do you get a refund if you pay for a message and the Russians blow up the ammo dump on the Ukrainian side? I mean, what are they offering in terms of refunds there? I mean, So what I just want to say, when the first Gulf War, the United States, and I remember this vividly, a student from my university wrote on the side of the bomb of an F-16 to Saddam from Cal Poly. I went to Cal Poly for my bachelor's degree. And when I saw that, even at that young age, I was only 20, and I realized that this is something very wrong with this. I don't want to bomb anybody. Thank you very much. I mean, who are you speaking on behalf of? But that was a thing that I remember vividly at the time in the first Gulf War. This is the same sort of thing going on here. A lot of people are not going to buy this, Mike. There's a certain amount of people that will buy it and will support it, but a lot of people are going to say this is just perverted. And I think there's a lot more reasonable people out there than we realize.